Welcome in, Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we are talking about Seattle Seahawks draft trade rumors. What could the Seahawks possibly do with their first-round picks? Could we see them trade up? Could they trade down? Also, could they be involved in the Aaron Rodgers trade to the New York Jets? We will do a quick whip around and let you hear of some of these trade ideas that are being thrown out there coming up in just a little while from right now. Before we do, folks, we are on the brink of 36,500 subscribers here on the channel as we are trying to get to 37,000 for our boy Sean Alexander. But first, let's get to 36.5K. Need your help to get there, about 79 away from reaching that milestone. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel now. We're going to be live during the draft. We have our daily news and rumors segments. We are all over the NFL draft here on Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. So for the last several weeks, the wheels have been turning for a trade for Aaron Rodgers to head to the New York Jets. But trying to figure out the compensation and what it would take to get this done has been a little bit of a mess. And according to ESPN's Bill Barnwell, in order for the Packers and the Jets to get a deal done, they might need some help. And that's where potentially the Seahawks could come into play, of being the third team in a three-team trade to get Aaron to the Jets. The Packers get some draft compensation, and for the Seahawks to still come out of that with a couple picks in the process as well. So let's go ahead and show you exactly what Bill Barnwell is suggesting. He says that we could see a scenario where the Seahawks trade down from 20. Granted, there's a lot to follow here, so stay with me on this, folks. The Seahawks trade down from 20, and they land at 42 and 45, and then it would be second-round picks galore for the Seahawks at that point, still staying with the number 5 pick. And then what it would do for the other teams is the Packers would get the 13th overall pick. The Jets would still stay within the first round and have a first-round pick at 20, pick up a third-round pick and get Aaron Rodgers, and then the Packers would get a third-round pick for 2024 as well. Here's what Barnwell was describing this deal potentially. The Seahawks create more value for themselves and have 4 picks between 37 and 52, which allows them to move wherever they want in the bottom of the first round and top of the second round. Now, I'm not opposed to trading down from 20. In fact, that's one thing we've talked about on this channel for quite some time. What I am opposed to is the idea of trading out of the first round, though. To me, that is a situation where you lose a little bit of leverage, right? If you trade out of the first round and don't get back in, whatever it may be, then whoever you draft there at the second round as opposed to the first round, you don't have the fifth-year option possibility that you would with a guy that was a first-round pick. So to me, I think that's a big deal, at least to have that leverage play, to give you that opportunity to do so. And look, I understand that somebody might be involved to try to help out the Jets and the Packers to get this deal done, but it shouldn't be up to the Seahawks to solve those teams' issues in getting a trade done. I'm not interested in helping Green Bay out, and especially not interested in helping Aaron Rodgers get to New York here. The Seahawks got to take care of themselves. I think there's better opportunities than getting out of the first round as far as I'm concerned. I'm okay with trading down, but I don't want to lose out of being in position for the first round personally. What say you? Should Seattle trade down from 20? Like I said, not opposed to trading out of 20. I am opposed to leaving the first round altogether. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Why for yes, in for no. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Tell me what you think. Should Seattle trade down from 20? Why for yes, in for no. Now let's talk about the number 5 pick. Seattle GM John Schnider says they've talked to teams about the number 5 pick in some potential shopping of sorts to make a move when it comes to that selection. And before you get too upset or whatever it may be. You may be one of those folks that is all in at staying at 5, like me. Before you get mad about this, I'll preface this by saying the Seahawks owe it to the organization and for the draft process to evaluate every single option, to at least look into these things. It doesn't hurt Seattle at all to at least consider and take a look at these potential offers when it comes to this number 5 pick as far as potentially trading down goes. So with that, here's more from Greg Bell, who does a terrific job with the Tacoma News-Tribune. He said this: what Arizona does at 3 will determine if Anderson, Jalen Carter, or a top quarterback is available for Seattle at 5. If the Cardinals trade down out of 3, that increases the chances the first 4 picks or quarterbacks. The other part of this is the Seahawks aren't hiding that they've talked to every presumed top 10 pick if any teams might want to, trade up to 5 or anything. Schnider says the Seahawks have had those calls from teams thinking of perhaps trading up to 5. He says those calls typically pick in intensity and frequency about Tuesday and Wednesday before Thursday's round 1. So more on this possibility I'll dive into in just a second, and we'll get into all that here. But before we do, today's show is presented by Z-Biotics. Let's face it, after y'all hit me with a bunch of super chats, I don't bounce back well the next day. That is until I found Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break these byproducts down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut when you need it most. Drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Give Z-Biotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/chatsports to get 15% off your order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to check out for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring today's video. Now, as far as trading down from 5 goes, there's one scenario in particular that catches my interest when it comes to trading down. Let's say, for all intents and purposes, if things change over the next few days, and if Anderson and Carter are both gone all of a sudden at 5, then that might change your strategy completely, because I think we're sitting here today on Friday, and the idea, the game plan, the point of attack, of sorts for Seattle right now is to go with Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, one of the two at 5. But if things change, teams trade up, they change their minds, whatever it may be, and one of those two guys aren't there, then you might start to evaluate your options to look at other directions potentially. And I know that Tyree Wilson would likely still be around, but all of a sudden you might have a different bag of cards, a different hand that you're dealt essentially here. According to reports, there are at least 3 teams that are interested in trading up in the draft that we know already, besides others that could pop up over the next couple days. One of those teams is the Tennessee Titans. They hold a first-round pick at 11. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 17, and the rumors out there were that they very much like Jalen Carter, but obviously you wouldn't want to be in a position to pass on Jalen Carter for Pittsburgh to get him. And then there's the Minnesota Vikings at 23, who are also potentially interested in trading up. So there could be some suitors to make a deal if you so wish, if things don't go the way you think they will and you decide you decide you want to move down, there will be teams that would be interested in moving up. So, should the Seahawks trade down from 5? What do you think? If you think they should, type T for trade. If not, type P for pass. Let us know in the comments section. What say you? Should the Seahawks trade down from 5? Type T for trade, type P for pass. So you're saying there's a chance to quote the great all-time classic Dumb and Dumber. Substack writer Seaside Joe, who independently covers the Seahawks, does a really good job. Highly recommend checking out his Substack if you haven't already. So he suggested a pretty interesting situation for the Seahawks, saying that there is a possibility they could trade up to 2 for a quarterback. Now, we told you earlier in the week here on the channel, Brock Heward, former Seahawks quarterback, Fox college football analyst, and does radio in Seattle, he was suggesting that Seattle could make a move to package 5 and 20 to move up and grab Will Anderson. But Seaside Joe is saying here that, hey, you know what? What about a quarterback, okay? Now, what I find interesting, all this kind of goes back to the Texans, right? And there was reports that the Texans had kind of soured on C.J. Stroud, according to Peter King of NBC Sports earlier this week. And then the Texans GM had this to say this week. If you want to quote me, are we open for business? I would say we're open to listening. So if you want to change the vocabulary a little bit this year, okay. So that is interesting, right? And then now let's go back to what Seaside Joe had to say, kind of connecting the dots here on all this. The Seahawks hold all the cards to do this. If that's what they want out of this draft, the number 2 QB, this would be taking the Russell Wilson trade and turning it from just 2 1s, 2 2s, 3 players into maneuvering part of that return into a young franchise quarterback prospect. That's the NFL Moneyball strategy that fans have been waiting for, and whether Seattle will take that risk or if it's the smart move is yet to be revealed. And it's very simple. It all comes down to how bad do you want it? How bad does Seattle want a quarterback? Because if they do, it can be done. It can. And the trade offer, I think, goes back to actually Brock Heward's trade idea for the Will Anderson situation. But same thing here for a quarterback. 5 and 20, and you move up to 2. And if you like C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson and you are dead set that you want one of those 2 guys, you can have them for this price to move up to 2. It can be done. And I'll say this much. I am very adamant about staying at 5 and going with Carter and Anderson. That's the lane. That's the path I prefer. But I can live with trading up for C.J. Stroud. That one, I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over at night because we've seen C.J. Stroud play at a really high level over the last couple of seasons, and he passes the eye test, right? All the measurables, everything. We've seen C.J. Stroud play really well. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. But I would sit here, and I would be pissed, and you should be pissed and frustrated if the Seahawks were to move up to 2 to get Anthony Richardson. Not only, as we've talked about on this channel earlier this week, would you be moving on from the number 5, the number 20 pick, but then moving up to 2 for a project quarterback that is not ready to start day 1, and you already have Geno Smith there, and you're in win-now mode. So that's where I feel. That's where I come into play with this, is C.J. Stroud is ready to go. Whenever you want to turn the keys over from Geno to C.J., you could do that. I don't know when Anthony Richardson would be ready to step up. I would have a big problem with that. You look at the numbers of these 2 quarterbacks this past season. C.J. Stroud, over 66% completion percentage, close to 3,700 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 picks. Very good college quarterback rating, 177.7. Anthony Richardson, completion percentage was not good, less than 54%. Just under 2,600 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. Heck of an athlete. Nobody can deny the athlete that Anthony Richardson is, but there are a lot of question marks about what he will be at this next level if he can fully develop and come into his own. So, if you had to pick one of these quarterbacks, if Seattle is in position, if they decide they want to trade up to 2, or if one of them falls to their lap at 5, whatever it may be, if you had to take one of these 2, who are you going with, Anthony Richardson or C.J. Stroud? Type AR for Anthony Richardson. Type CJ for C.J. Stroud. Let me know in the comments section. Off to Talladega this weekend. Going to be watching some NASCAR. Should be a great time in Talladega, Alabama this weekend. Follow me on social media Still talking about your Seahawks. I'll have updates from Dega, baby. Shake it, bake. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well at Tyler Jones Live. And have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for joining us here on Seahawks Today.